Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And in today's video, I wanted to key in on Verizon and T-Mobile. I'll include AT&T in another video, likely will have to be next year. I'm waiting for AT&T to give us more of a clearer, more aggressive guidance. Right now, on the wireless side, we really don't have a clear picture on where they're aggressively going. So they're telling us they're kind of dibble and dabbling into millimeter wave. We don't have any aggressive targets or guidance on that. For example, with Verizon, we know they're deploying 14,000 nodes per year, and they have hit their target this year. AT&T remains to be seen. We know they're deploying it. We just don't know it as to how aggressive they're actually deploying. C-band, they've already told us they're not going to deploy as aggressive as Verizon. They want to do 75 million by the end of next year. Verizon is they're targeting 100 million by March. They may already be there. They may really already be there because they are deploying aggressively and they're giving us aggressive targets. And we all know where T-Mobile is. So T-Mobile has a 2-year head start, so of course they're at 200 million now. They're going to 250 this upcoming year. So they're telling us aggressive targets as well. We haven't gotten that yet from AT&T. The most aggressive business guidance that we've received from AT&T has been the fiber plan. They're telling us, okay, 3 million homes, we're scaling fiber. That is the most aggressive target that I've seen from them by a long shot. That is a very aggressive target. That means in some neighborhoods, as they scale the fiber, just for example, there will be more homes within neighborhoods will be able to sign up for the fiber versus, say, T-Mobile's home internet. Because eventually, within a neighborhood, T-Mobile will fill up the capacity. There's a certain amount of extra capacity that T-Mobile has per a sector. They haven't given us the official numbers yet. I'm trying to track that on the back end. I'm talking to some engineers, but I've been told there is a certain amount of capacity per sector that T-Mobile is willing to fill. Once that is filled up, that neighborhood in any given neighborhood no longer has access to home internet. It's cut off. So with a aggressive build from AT&T where the fiber is deployed, they can offer it to every single house in that neighborhood because each of them have their own lines running to it. Just for an example as to how aggressive this business plan is for AT&T. So this will be a longer video. So make sure you guys grab your drink, coffee, popcorn, whatever it is, and enjoy. So in the first part, I wanted to talk about T-Mobile's aggressive target on home broadband, 500,000. Recently, Mike Sievert announced officially that they surpassed the 2021 home broadband subscriber goal, more than 500,000. So they kind of waited. They had a 2-year head start on any other carrier deploying this amount of bandwidth aggressively throughout the United States. So at first, they launched it in beta, the home broadband. They gained 100,000 during the beta period, and then it launched commercially, and they very quickly filled up 500,000 subscribers. I think they did it very quickly, and overall, I still think this is my opinion, this is me. I think the emerging product section that T-Mobile is now running, that Dow Draper is in charge of, I think overall, all of that is still in beta. I know it's officially launched commercially and business as well, but T-Mobile is still learning as they go. There was a mistake with the original routers that went out. A lot of them came back defective. I don't think that's T-Mobile's fault. I think that's Nokia not really having a lot of quality control. They should have tested the routers more. They should have known that this was going to be a large demand. T-Mobile should have been on them as well, saying, hey, look, this is going to have demand. We can see it in the beta. This is going to have a lot of demand once we go commercially. And just to throw this in, T-Mobile has yet to go on a nationwide campaign with this home internet. So keep that in mind. I have yet to see a primetime commercial on a football game, on an NBA game, where they're advertising home broadband. So they're still holding that product back. If you really sit there and think about it, I've seen it done digitally. You can see every now and then on YouTube, you'll see a couple of ads. You can see it in the stores, of course. I have seen it in newspapers, but we have yet to see a nationwide launch of this product in terms of primetime ads. So they're still holding this product back. But nonetheless, T-Mobile pivoted very quickly. If you seen my video last night, they are now with a new manufacturer, and they're going to reveal a new 5G gateway. It's already in the FCC listing. We have yet to hear on an official date when this will come out. We don't know if any customer can just go and upgrade. Likely, because there's so many already, there's more than 500,000 users. Likely, you will only be able to swap out if your current unit is defective. If your current unit is not defective and it's working, I don't think you'll be able to upgrade. But T-Mobile will disclose that at a later time, and there may be something that they put in where you are able to upgrade. Who knows? We'll see once they officially release that to the public. So again, I think it's all in a large beta for them. I think they're learning as they go. They've never had experience in the home broadband. And now as they run the statistics, they fill up that capacity per sector. They're starting to learn, okay, this is the usage that we can expect. Can we potentially open up more homes if we include more mid-band? That's all being looked at, and that's what Mike Sievert discussed during the conference. So as they add C-band, they'll be able to open it up to more homes within any given neighborhood. If they bought spectrum in auction 110, if they add that to the sector, they'll be able to open up more homes in neighborhoods. And that comes with them already knowing that they can offer several terabytes of usage for that product. But eventually, N41, C-band, and auction 110, those spectrum bands will reach limits. Not necessarily that it's going to be immediately congested and then, just shut it off, go home. But they will reach the limits in terms of how much capacity is allowed for home broadband, and then the neighborhoods will get cut off. There is demand, so people want this product. So it could, especially as they go on a nationwide campaign, which they haven't done yet, people are going to want to check. People are going to want to get into this product. A lot of people have issues with their current ISPs, especially the cable companies. So they're going to want to get out, and T-Mobile knows it. So eventually, Mike Sievert stated that they would have to deploy, or when needed, they can tap into millimeter wave. Now, putting millimeter wave on the tower is not a favorable. It's not a favorable way of deploying that spectrum. Now, I know I've seen some of you guys say, yeah, you could put it on the tower and it'll take off some capacity, but it's less effective because it does not reach 2 to 3 miles. So if you put it on a macro, yeah, you can reach several homes, but what they really want to do is they want to offload. They really want to offer new capacity into the neighborhood to bring in new homes, right? You don't want to deploy millimeter wave on the tower just so you can serve the same customers you've already served with faster speeds. You want to bring in new customers, especially if you have to dedicate, which Mike Sievert said, dedicate a separate capital towards deploying millimeter wave. You want to be able to include new customers into that return on investment plan. So what is T-Mobile going to have to do? They're going to have to follow Verizon's strategy. They're going to have to go into the neighborhoods and deploy millimeter wave nodes to bring new customers on board, because Millimeter wave does not have the range of midband. It just does not. I don't care how you look at it. I don't care, how you flip it and turn it. It does not have the range of midband. So the customers that are already within that midband, they should be good to go because T-Mobile now has cut off the neighborhood because the extra capacity is now filled up. So now T-Mobile has to go, okay, if we want to open up more homes within the neighborhood, we got to deploy this millimeter wave because our midband is all filled up. So now they're going to be behind and they're going to start trying to implement a same type of plan that Verizon has been deploying since 2017. It's going to come. T-Mobile is already briefly discussing it. They're saying right now we don't need it because they have that midband. But eventually, even Mike Sievert says, if needed, we will tap into that millimeter wave and they will deploy it. And they will have to deploy the same as Verizon. Yes, it will have some use on a tower, but like I mentioned, you don't want to deploy it on a tower just to give some of the homes that you already have access that already use your product with faster speeds. You want to be able to deploy it to new homes for the return on investment. And the only way to do that is you have to bring small cell nodes closer to those homes that may have wanted to sign up but couldn't get it because the midband is already filled up. So now you have to go, and I'm talking about this is outside of the reach that millimeter wave would provide. So say you put it on the macro and it can go 3,000 feet because it's up higher. Within that 3,000 feet, you already cover those people with midband, and you know that, okay, I can't have this reach further than 3,000 feet. So now to cover the people that live all the way at the end of the street, I have to deploy nodes to get them to use my service. I already saw that they signed up in the system. They want my product, but I have to build millimeter wave because I can't put another macro tower dead smack in the middle of the neighborhood because it just can't get approved. And millimeter wave does not reach as far. All my midband is already filled up with the extra capacity. So now I have to deploy millimeter wave nodes in the neighborhoods so I can get these customers on board. Verizon's already doing that plan now. So once this aggressively starts and it's actually being discussed by T-Mobile, then analysts are going to start scratching their heads because right now everybody's bashing Verizon because, this plan is a no-go. There's a low percentage of users. Well, wait till next year. Wait till 2023 as this scales more, and wait till all that extra midband capacity is filled up for T-Mobile. They will take on a very similar plan to Verizon. So that's what T-Mobile is already discussing in some of the conferences. Now, they're not really giving us a guidance yet. That may come next year. But I guarantee you, eventually, millimeter wave will scale outside of the 8 cities that it is launched in now. It will come eventually. They're just really focused right now on mid-band and low band to claim their leadership, the 5G leadership. So, like I mentioned, this is the first part. I think the emerging side of it, the emerging products that Dow Draper is running, it's all still in beta because they're learning as they go. But I think eventually they'll get a hang of things. New routers will come into the pipeline that are more reliable. I think T-Mobile really made an emphasis on that. You can tell that the new router is more efficient. You can tell there's better ventilation. So that should not be an issue in 2022 as they scale more subscribers on home internet. So now for part 2, I want to talk about Verizon because I saw recently Craig Moffett put out some statements on Verizon's plan. And again, analysts are still not favoring millimeter wave because it is, virtually useless because it's not a lot of percentage of people that are on it. And, we got in that whole spill over the last few years. But as I just mentioned in part one, T-Mobile will also have to tap into millimeter wave. They're telling you they will have to. Just right now, it's not needed because they're so focused on the integration of the networks. And as you migrate people over to the T-Mobile, the anchor network from the Sprint side, you have to have capacity at scale. Millimeter wave is not going to provide that at this point in time. T-Mobile has to make sure that the churn is low, so they have to deploy that N41. They have to make that a priority right now, especially since they are not densifying the T-Mobile grid and they're placing a X amount of number of customers from the T-Mobile side, from the Sprint side onto the T-Mobile grid that was essentially built for T-Mobile customers. So they have to deploy a massive amounts more capacity spectrum to handle that Sprint side. So that's what they're focused on right now. Verizon did not have to take that same approach. Yes, you can make the argument that they just didn't have the mid-band, which they didn't. They had to buy it. So that's likely why they went ahead and deployed millimeter wave first, because they had nothing else to deploy. You can make that argument. But now Verizon is going into it. Since 2017, they're taking up some of the prime real estate in terms of where the nodes are being deployed or better locations. They're already aggressively in the permit approval process, which is still taking about a year or two. So as those get approved, you're going to start seeing more of that scale. And then when you see nodes popping up in neighborhoods, you can automatically assume that those small cells, those millimeter wave small cells, are for fixed wireless access. They don't have a huge amount of reach. It's not like they're going to reach 2 miles onto the main street. Not going to happen. If you see a millimeter wave only node dead smack in the middle of the neighborhood, you betcha it's for fixed wireless access. So as I mentioned in previous videos, they are building home broadband. The only step that Verizon is doing less is they're not deploying the fiber line directly to the house. That's what AT&T does. They're just deploying the fiber line to the node, and then they're giving you access to how X amount of homes in the neighborhood that now have access to the millimeter wave, and they're doing that on a nationwide scale. And or they'll eventually get to that nationwide scale. So if you are a consumer in the market for a new home broadband provider, you are going to want millimeter wave. It just provides the amount of bandwidth that C-band can't provide. But once C-band is more at scale, Verizon wants to do 100 million by March. I think they may already be there now. They set 90 million by December, but they've been aggressively deploying this at a faster pace than many had anticipated. So that will only open up more access to more homes once the FAA issue is resolved. I think that will resolve. I truly believe now, after doing more research and looking how the FAA recently spoke about it, I think Verizon is just going to launch it January 5th. In fact, we already have seen some commercial people connecting to C-band sites commercially now. Over the last few days, 60 megahertz of N77 has been spotted on a official commercial Samsung Galaxy S21. And the 5G UW or ultra wideband logo was spotted on the device as well. So I think they're just going to launch it January 5th at the restricted power, and the FAA is just going to have to deal with it. So that's why recently they put out the statement that if the carriers do launch January 5th, that there's going to be some flight delays coming in the future. So that statement by the FAA was made in anticipation that they do launch this on January 5th. And by the recent FCC comments, it looks like the carriers have the backing of the FCC that they are going to be allowed to deploy this on January 5th. As of December 5th, satellite has been officially removed, and the spectrum is now in the carrier's hands to be deployed. So that will give them more access to more homes throughout nationwide wherever it's deployed. Now, to Verizon's maybe not favorable side of things, they can't deploy outside of the top 46. Well, they can deploy, but they can't turn it on. So right now, they have 190 million pops of C-band that's cleared as of December 5th. So they're launching 100 million by March. I think they're going to launch January 5th with 95 million or maybe even 100. I think they do beat that target significantly because they have been deploying this, as I mentioned, at a much faster pace versus what anyone had been anticipating. And then, as Hans Vestberg said recently at a conference very confidently, that means millions more will be added to the list that can sign up for home broadband services. Right now, they did 55,000 in the most recent quarter that they added in, but that was mainly based on millimeter wave and LTE. Once they get C-band on air, they will likely post similar numbers to what T-Mobile is doing because now they can offer that scale. The only advantage that T-Mobile has is they can deploy, outside of the top 46. They can actually turn on outside of the top 46, and now they're going into the rural suburban environment where they're hitting 250 million with mid-band by the end of next year and then 300 by the end of 2023. They will likely be able to turn that perception towards them because by the time Verizon gets there, which they haven't guided, we got to keep that in mind. T-Mobile is telling us the right thing. Verizon has not guided anything about 300 million pops covered with C-band. They have not guided. They guided 175 million between 2022 and 23, but they haven't told us, okay, by 2024, 2025, we'll be at 300 million. So we got to wait for another analyst day to see where Verizon wants to guide us in terms of how long it'll take them to get to 250 and 300. T-Mobile is telling us it's going to take 5 times the landmass to get to 300 million. So it's going to take them a lot longer to cover that. And Verizon being behind already, it may take them till 24 and 25 to get to 300 million. So we got to keep all of that in mind as we take in all the information that we get every year and, we put that to use. So I do think the millimeter wave coupled with the C-band, and then there's still CBRS to feed off of that, not only the 30 to 40 megahertz that they purchase in the licensing, but they can use additional spectrum or bandwidth after the fact. In some markets, they're using up to 80 megahertz of CBRS. That's something that's also not talked about. So again, if in terms of like the third-party testing firms and the Ooklas of the world and the Root Metrics, if you want to talk about a capacity-built network, once again, you have my guess as to who wins. It's got to be Verizon. Verizon had to build the densification that was necessary for them to keep the network above water. They had the least amount of spectrum during LTE. Now, that's going to benefit them in this mid-band and high-band world that we are in now. C-band is going to greatly benefit the additional densification that Verizon built in. And then Verizon already told us that if that densification is not sufficient, they're willing to build, or they're going to build 2,000 to 3,000 towers additionally every year until the densification is met for proper penetration of C-band. Small cells will get C-band. I mean, how many more towers and small cells are they going to build is what I'm being told when I show, okay, Verizon is building another tower in El Paso. The responses that I get is, another one? Why are they building so many? Well, it's to make the spectrum work. And at the same token, now they're giving themselves access to more customers that they can add and more home internet customers that will have access in any given neighborhood. So let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. I know this was a longer video. I just wanted to get this out there Now that we have all the information that we have and we're closer to the end of the year, it seems T-Mobile and Verizon right now have the most aggressive targets. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, AT&T not really giving us anything aggressive. They're kind of saying, okay, we're going to be here, we're going to be there. As I mentioned, the most aggressive targets AT&T has right now is fiber, 100%. It's their fiber deployment. They're telling us 3 million homes. This is how much it's going to take to get there. They're deploying that the most aggressive. All the other targets kind of up in the air. T-Mobile right now, very aggressive targets. They've had a 2-year head start. So, of course, they have more of it on a nationwide scale. Verizon is spending heavily and deploying so they can catch up. Eventually, I think they will, but we have to wait and see what they're going to guide in terms of how long it's going to take them to get that mid-band to the same type of footprint as T-Mobile if they are going to take it there. Because right now, T-Mobile is correct. They have not guided as to how long it's going to take them to get the 300 million. Right now, what we know is 22 to 23, they're going to do 175 million pops. But outside of the top 46, we really haven't seen a guidance as to how long it's going to take them to scale C-band. So let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.